The Constitution and the Bill of Rights are the rules for the government. And it seems like there's rules for me and you, but there's no rules for what the government can and cannot do.
There's a blueprint to follow for our government officials.
And we need to hold them to it.
Well, we're not doing it.
We're
That's
not
the
doing
problem.
it. And that is the problem. If you have
I'm running for governor so you can hold me to it.
Yeah, and hold the other people to it, because you cannot have a group of people in our society. I mean, you have to follow rules, I have to follow rules, but the politicians don't, and that's why we're in all of this trouble.
That's the big hypocrisy going on. Government officials think that it's okay to violate the Constitution, the supreme law of the land, and yet they get to force all of us to go along with all their less important, less binding statutory baloney that doesn't hold a hill of beans to the Constitution. They'll violate the Constitution with impunity, but they'll force us to wear our seatbelt. You know, I'm sorry, I don't get that.
Yeah, they're not wearing their seatbelt at all when it comes to what laws they pass and everything else. They can pass any law they want.
Let's put a seatbelt on government officials to make sure that they keep their oath of office. The oath of office they promise to, where they swear an oath to, is to uphold and defend the Constitution. Do any of them do it?
No, they don't. Most of what the government does now is unconstitutional, and we need to slowly but surely roll it back, because we've gone through all these experiments, and after all of this government, where is the utopia that they're promising us? Where is this perfect society?
I think the utopia left with the hippie movement in the 60s and 70s.
So what happened to now, is there any polls right now showing how you're doing, and how do you feel? What are your chances?
The mainstream polls have me way down, but interestingly enough, I was with 14 candidates running for governor. I was like 7th or 8th in the polls at 1.5%, but I was tied with one of the guys from the Republican side who just took 2nd in the Republican convention. He almost won it. He almost won the whole thing.
So there's no really telling where you are right now.
And there's a poll, a straw poll on the internet, utahpolitics.org, and I'm winning.
Wow. So how much money have you raised? I mean, how is the press reacting?
Haven't raised enough money.
Okay.
We've only raised about $25,000, and thus far we should have raised $250,000, and that's really starting to concern me, because I'll tell you quite honestly, if we raise the money, we're going to win this. But you can't run a campaign. You can't run a campaign without money, and that's all there is to it.
So now let's go back to the Brady bill. This was really where you became known nationally.
Right. It's my calling card, no question.
So what happened with that lawsuit? What happened to the Brady bill?
Well, the miracle is we won. And
which is amazing. No one ever wins against the government.
First of all, you never get to the Supreme Court. That's absolutely impossible. And the miracle of getting to the Supreme Court was achieved, and then it's absolutely unheard of. Just not imaginable that you would actually win a case at the U.S. Supreme Court in their arena against them. And it was a 5-4 split. It was close. And luckily we had Sandra Day O'Connor swing over to us. She's the swing person in that middle. And she sided with us, maybe because I'm from Arizona and she's from Arizona. So I don't know if that did it, but anyway, we got it. Because she was the swing vote on the Campaign Finance Reform Act that went to the Supreme Court, and she sided with the government. And you see, maybe she sided with John McCain because he's the one that proposed that, and he's from Arizona.
So how are the Republicans and the Democrats reacting to you out there?
Right now, they're pretty much ignoring me. But I've been at several gubernatorial forums, and the Republican candidates have definitely paid attention to me there. I mean, my views seem to be taking the high road. They're the ones that get the most attention. When I tell people that I want the federal government out of our lands and out of our affairs and get out of education, it becomes a hot topic. And there's a lot of mainstream people catching on with some of these views. One of the other candidates really hit hard on getting the federal government out of education, and right now, because of the George W. Bush No Child Left Behind nonsense, even mainstream Republicans are starting to
behind. Even the Democrats don't like it.
It's called leave the state in bankruptcy, is what that law is. And so, if anybody thinks that the federal government needs to educate our children in our local areas, if the people in Duluth, Georgia think the federal government should be educating the kids in Duluth, or if the people in Provo, Utah think that the federal government should be educating the kids in Provo, Utah, then you ought to just move your kids to Washington, D.C. and make it a little bit easier. But it's absolute nonsense that we continue to depend on the federal government to take care of us, because the problem is they will. And every time the federal government gets involved with running our lives, it gets nothing but screwed up. And it's time to stop it. And as governor, I will stop it.
Now, how does being a libertarian and being a law enforcement officer, how does that mesh together? Are there any conflicts there?
Perfectly, because I want law enforcement and the rest of government to assume the role of leave people alone. That's the philosophy of libertarian. Right. And for instance, I mentioned a while ago, the seatbelt law. You think this is a free country, and we have 660,000 police officers running around doing roadblocks and administrative checkpoints and checking people's papers before they get to go down the road, just like the Gestapo in Nazi Germany used to do. And if you don't have your seatbelt on, you're going to go to jail, and we're going to give you tickets.
For that.
Of course, they've arrested a lot of people for it.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and yet this is a free country. Now, people are saying right now, listening to me, saying, "Oh, but it's a good idea to wear your seatbelt." Yeah, it is. Wear it. Just don't have your police forcing me to.
While there are unsolved murders and unsolved rapes and unsolved robberies.
Oh no, we'll just hire more people. We'll just hire more cops.
We're chasing the non-seatbelt
Pretty soon there's going to be a cop in every car, making sure your children are safe, buckled up in their child safety seats, and everybody's wearing their seatbelt, and we're going to make sure that the car can't go over 65 so nobody speeds. We're going to make sure everybody's safer. Boy, we've sure let Big Brother go crazy in this country, haven't we?
It's nuts.
George Orwell would be proud of our federal government, how he had
predicted everything.
Predicted everything.
It's really amazing. So what would you say to somebody else out there, just the average citizen, who's looking at the Libertarian Party as an option? How would you say, how would you encourage them to come in?
I would say that everyone should look at all the third parties together. Pick one of the third parties and go for it, and tell the Democrats and Republicans that they can all go straight to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and stay there. The Republicans and Democrats have failed miserably in providing anything of substance regarding freedom or real protection in this country. And they continue to brag that they've made things better. You cannot name me one thing that the Democrats and Republicans have made better in this country the last 10 years, the last 30 years. You can't. Some of the Democrats would brag that they have a lot more gun control in our country. They would brag that that is a benefit. Quite honestly, we all know that that is a destruction of freedom and a destruction of our Constitution. And the Republicans would probably brag that we've gone to these wonderful wars in Iraq, and we have liberated 25 million people. Sean Hannity, you are wrong, sir.
Yeah, well, I wish we could get you on the show to debate Sean Hannity.
I'd love to debate Sean Hannity. You just have to, when it's my turn to speak, you have to slap a muzzle on him, all right?
Right. He does have a tendency to try to intimidate all day long. And we hear that all day. It's the liberals, the liberals, the liberals. That's all you hear them say. But, they're the liberals. They're growing government worse than the Democrats.
Yeah.
I don't understand what it is they're talking about. What is a liberal supposed to be when they're the ones growing government worse than the Democrats? So what other groups have you spoken to out in Utah? Are you going around to different organizations besides gun groups?
Rotary clubs, exchange clubs, gun